Hello, hello, welcome to Rachel Paints Poorly. My name is Rachel and I paint poorly. Today, we're going to be painting Aaron Douglas's Aspiration, first painted in 1936. If this art style is looking somewhat familiar, you might have seen it in a little Disney flick titled The Princess and the Frog. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I highly recommend. Watch it tonight. It's available on Disney+. #not sponsored. It's set in New Orleans and Mardi Gras makes an appearance. And oh, look at that, Mardi Gras is tomorrow. Weird how that worked out. Story time. My second favorite Disney animated movie of all time is The Princess and the Frog. My first favorite, for all of those who may be wondering, is Pocahontas. I know, you can leave your eye rolls of derision down in the comments below. Fairly early in the film, our heroine Tiana is given a flyer by her father, James, whose ambition is to open a restaurant in an old sugar mill located on the Mississippi River in New Orleans, Louisiana. Tragically, James is killed during World War I, but now adult Tiana still carries the flyer as she works towards achieving her and her father's dream. In fact, her big "I want" number, Almost There, takes place in the old sugar mill, which transforms before our very eyes into her vision of the future, based on the very same flyer. In the DVD commentary, directors Ron Clemens and John Musker reveal that the flyer was based on the works of Aaron Douglas, a noted Harlem Renaissance artist. The scene was supervised by Eric Goldberg, the animator behind the genie in Aladdin and the director of Pocahontas, so you know it's good. According to John Musker, Eric, quote, worked with the team of animators to work in this kind of stylized, limited animation style, to bring it to life, to make it really look like these illustrations. You'll notice there are not lines around the characters, they're all sort of shapes. That's because of Aaron Douglas's drawing style. The sort of slanted, slitty eyes, those come from Aaron's style of rendering characters in his illustrations, end quote. To which Ron added, quote, as well as the circles inside circles, and the beams of light, end quote. John responded, quote, right, those are all signature elements of Aaron Douglas's style, end quote. So who was Aaron Douglas, and how did he come to create Aspiration? Aaron Douglas was born on May 26, 1899, to Aaron Douglas and Elizabeth Ross in Topeka, Kansas. The elder Aaron was a laborer. Occasionally, Elizabeth would take art classes from traveling artists. Her enraptured son watched as she drew still lifes. She encouraged his artistic talents and ambitions, and hung his drawings and paintings in their home. Aaron recalled that once, upon returning home from a family Elizabeth worked for, quote, my mother must have talked to them about me, because one day she came home with a magazine that they had given her. It had in it a reproduction of a painting by Tanner. It was his painting of Christ and Nicodemus meeting in the moonlight on a rooftop. I remember the painting very well. I spent hours poring over it, and that helped to lead me to deciding to become an artist, end quote. Though far from ideal, circumstances in Topeka, Kansas opened up opportunities for Aaron's career ambition. In the early 1900s, when Aaron was growing up, Topeka boasted a thriving middle-class black society consisting of businesses owned by and for the black community. After progressing through segregated elementary schools, Aaron went on to Topeka High School, which, while integrated, remained unobtainable for most non-white students. He was one of only 8 black students to graduate from Topeka High in 1917. As a student, he was known for his serious, thoughtful demeanor. In a 1917 Who's Who newspaper article, the unknown author remarked, quote, there's one funny thing about Aaron, though. He reads heavy literature, pages and pages written by authors like Carlyle and Victor Hugo. He says he thinks a person should read such things to form a taste for good literature, end quote. In 1918, Aaron entered the University of Nebraska, for which he paid his way by working as a busboy and a dishwasher. He was the first black student to be admitted to the university's fine arts program. He said of his time there, quote, in 1922, after 4 anxious, sweaty, nerve-wracking years, I was awarded a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from the University of Nebraska. I had a sneaking suspicion that sweatiness was an unfamiliar thing to be associated with the acquisition of this degree. Fortunately, this experience proved to be the best possible training and orientation for the creation and interpretation of the life I was later called on to depict. end quote. He accepted a teaching position at the segregated Lincoln High School in Kansas City, Missouri in the fall of 1923. Here he met Ethel Ray Nance, secretary for the National Urban League, who encouraged him to leave Kansas City for New York City and take place in the emerging Black cultural renaissance taking place in Harlem. Ethel wrote to him, quote, "Better to be a dishwasher in New York than to be head of a high school in Kansas City," end quote. In 1925, Aaron resigned his position and left for New York City, writing to his future wife Alta Mae Sawyer, quote, "Well, I have really begun a campaign which will land me either success or failure," end quote. Although he found it difficult to make a living as an artist, even one that was in demand, he nonetheless wrote to Alta with a sense of optimism, concluding, quote, "You just watch. Things are going to break, and break fast," end quote. His purpose in coming, as he later noted, was to fill the need expressed by Alain Locke and W.E.B. Du Bois for an artist to visually convey the Harlem Renaissance. As Aaron worked to develop a new aesthetic, he was encouraged by his artistic mentor Vinold Rice, a German immigrant, and the writings of Alain Locke, the self-titled midwife of the Harlem Renaissance, to draw from within and find the beauty in himself and the Black community while creating said style, a fusion of African and American. Of the process, Aaron remembered, quote, "I clearly recall Rice's impatience as he sought to urge me beyond my doubts and fears that seemed to loom so large in the presence of the terrifying specters moving beneath the surface of every African mask and fetish. At last, I began little by little to get to the point and to take a few halting, timorous steps forward into what was, for me, the unknown. I shall not attempt to describe my feelings as I first tried to objectify with paint and brush what I thought to be the visual emanations or expressions that came into view with the sounds produced by the old Black songmakers of antebellum days, when they first began to put together snatches and bits from Protestant hymns, along with half-remembered tribal chants, lullabies, and work songs. These later became the early outlines of our spirituals, sorrow songs, and blues," end quote. His work was in high demand from both Black and white patrons alike, and his illustrations appeared in the magazines The Crisis, Opportunity, and Fire, as well as the 1925 book The New Negro, for which he was the only Black illustrator. Aaron's concentration on the graphic arts set him apart from other artists at the time. Instead of gracing the walls of exclusive museums or private collections, his work was circulated to the masses on book and magazine covers, and as illustrations for journals and on posters. The collaborative nature of his work enabled him from the beginning of his career to develop a social network that eventually matured into a leadership role, both in Harlem as an artist and later as a professor at Fisk University, where he founded a fine arts program. As he had found mentors in Alain Locke and W.E.B. Du Bois, Aaron in turn acted as mentor to the next generation of artists. In addition to his work in graphic design, Aaron was also a gifted muralist. His first mural commissions were for private homes. His first public mural was unveiled in 1927 at the Club Ebony in Harlem at 129th Street and Lenox Avenue. A particularly fine example, a series of murals depicting the rich history of African Americans, was executed in the Fisk Library in 1930. They underwent restoration in 2003. His talents were called on again in 1936 for the creation of 4 large paintings for the Hall of Negro Life, a segregated space at the Texas Centennial Exposition. Only 2 of the 4 paintings survive, Into Bondage and Aspiration. And so, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? I wanted to create something new and modern that fitted in with Art Deco and the other things that were taking the country by storm. That is how I came upon the notion to use a number of things such as cubism and a style with straight lines to emphasize the mathematical relationship of things. Aaron Douglas. The backgrounds of Aaron's works borrow elements from the Art Deco movement, blended with a mix of flat, geometric planes and converging shafts of light. To this, he also added the iconography of West African and Egyptian art. At the center of his work, however, was the figure, intentionally racialized to be that of a Black individual. According to Aaron's colleague and friend David C. Driscoll, quote, "Repeatedly, he referred to the emphasis he placed on the Black figure, which was made to be the central theme in many of his compositions. He enhanced the spatial environment around the figure with signs and symbols of African identity, Black dignity, self-pride, and an African-inspired setting, almost bordering on a formula and plan. The long-awaited new style lent itself well to rendering the positive imagery that Black America desired. Gone were the Black stereotypes of the past." End quote. On the figures themselves, Aaron said, quote, "Well, there's a certain artistic pattern that I follow. That is to say, I try to keep the figures broad. The figure was done so that there was as little perspective in figure as possible. No perspective in the face. The face was turned around, so you saw the flat side of the face, and no face is done in front view. You kept everything side view, so that you have a broad extension rather than arms being extended towards you in perspective." End quote. On a separate occasion, he said, quote, "The head was in perspective in a profile flat view. The body, shoulders down to the waist turned halfway. The legs were done also from the side, and the feet were also done in a broad, never toward you, perspective, simply because, at that, you don't understand things. We don't view things that way. We understand if I present my hand to you that way. You wouldn't understand that that was a hand. It's only when done this way, when the fingers spread out, that you understand. So you see that I spread the hand out with the fingers out, and the hand was done in a way that I concocted. I used that hand all the time. Got it from the Egyptians." End quote. Ubiquitous to Aaron's style is the slit-like eyes he gave to his figures. Comparisons to the slit-eyed masks from West and Central Africa are common, but Richard J. Powell, a professor of art and art history at Duke University, considers his use of the slit eye as a, quote, "diagrammatic cipher, in place of a more conventional ocular rendering, conveyed something linguistic and, paradoxically, mute. Douglas's slit eye, rather than representing unmediated lucid vision, appears veiled, almost closed, squinting, and under the influence of a shadowy but not dour ambiance." End quote. To emphasize his point, Powell goes on to quote art historian Sylvia Boone's study of the slit-eyed masks of the Mende peoples. Quote, "Ear and eye, like mouth, are materially blind to indicate, in subtle equilibrations of silence, shade, and calm, an inner force beyond measure or conventional belief." End quote. These eyes, as noted earlier by John Musker, became one of Aaron's stylistic signatures. Another signature, his use of radiating concentric circles, indicates a power or another dimension beyond what is seen in the image. This use of symbolism is found in Aspiration, only here it is found in a series of stars. As you recall, the 5-foot by 5-foot piece was one of 4 to be displayed in the lobby of the Hall of Negro Life, a segregated space in the 1936 Texas Centennial Exposition. While planning the event, the Texas legislature did not provide funding for a Black exhibit, so African Americans from Dallas successfully lobbied the federal government for the money necessary to create their own building and displays. Despite being excluded from the main exposition, Black historians, artists, and organizers used the Hall of Negro Life to present African Americans' history, Americanness, and contributions to the United States. In the lobby, Aaron's 4 paintings decorated the walls. An information desk held several pamphlets, one written by W.E.B. Du Bois titled "What the Negro Has Done for the United States and Texas," and another by statistician Charles E. Hall, "Progress of the Negro in Texas." Off the lobby were 2 wings, divided into 4 exhibit areas with 6 overarching categories, including education, fine arts, health, agriculture, mechanic arts, and business. To emphasize their focus on advancements in education acquired since slavery, the coordinators collected a large quantity of graphs, charts, dioramas, posters, books, photographs, and other objects for display. The Hall of Negro Life opened on June 19, 1936, also known as Juneteenth. While Aaron never wrote about this series, Alonzo Aiden, curator for the exhibition, provided a detailed description. After the now lost first mural, which showed a scene from the life of Estevanico, the first African-born slave to travel across Texas. The other 3 murals tells the story of blacks beginning with slavery in Africa, into bondage, to modern-day hopeful citizens, Aspiration. In between these 2 was The Negro's Gift to America. Said Aidan, quote, "Here, human labor is the holder of the key to a true understanding of the Negro in a new world." The agricultural workers on the left and the industrialists on the right bring gifts to labor. The woman in the center of the composition, with the babe in outstretched arms, symbolizes a plea for equal recognition. The cabin, amidst of the towers, is the symbol of Negro evolution from crude, primitive pioneer life to the complicated existence in the great urban centers. The star in the design is the Lone Star of Texas." End quote. Aaron's depictions in his murals aligned with the other contributors to the Hall of Negro Life. In his pamphlet, What the Negro Has Done for the United States and Texas, for the cover of which Aaron provided the illustration, W.E.B. Du Bois pointed to 6 areas of contribution: labor and exploration, music, literature, art, and science, the emancipation of democracy, military service, and religion. But the greatest gift, according to Du Bois, was, quote, "the gift of toil," end quote, by which he was referring to slave labor. For, quote, "the necessity of human labor can never be wholly done away with, and the harder and more unlovely labor is at particular periods, the greater the contribution and sacrifice of those who do it," end quote. By including shackled, upraised arms in the foreground of Aspiration, Aaron alludes to the legacy of slavery, while the 2 standing men and the seated woman on the raised platform suggest the hopeful future of education and modernity. The man on the left holds a compass and a carpenter's square signifying architecture. The globe to his left indicates travel and exploration. In the center, the second man holds a beaker symbolizing science. His right hand points to the skyscrapers and factory of the modern city up ahead on the hill. On the right, a seated woman holds an open book in her outstretched hand, representing the arts and literature. A star radiates out from over her right shoulder, perhaps another allusion to Texas, or even the 48 stars on the American flag. Alaska and Hawaii wouldn't be admitted until January and August of 1959, respectively. The lightning bolt in the upper left corner indicates the continuing injustice of segregation, lurking at the edges of African American advancement. So too was the success of the Hall of Negro Life tempered with setbacks. A Dallas newspaper reported that, quote, "the Negro building at the Texas Central Centennial has given many white visitors, as well as Negroes, a clearer view of achievement which the black man has attained in America. The various exhibits lend weight to the statement that no race has shown itself more capable of assimilating Western civilization than the Negro. Such achievements, attained under heavy handicaps, have gone far toward giving the Negro a place of higher rank in American life." End quote. Alongside these words of praise, however, was the fact of a deep-seated negative racial mindset held by white visitors, who could not accept that the paintings were done by Aaron Douglas. Jesse O. Thomas, general manager for the Hall of Negro Life, wrote, quote, "Many white people insisted that these murals were not painted by a Negro. Some became so rude that the administration decided to have a sign painter paint on the wall the following statement: 'These murals were painted by Aaron Douglas, a Negro artist of New York City.'" End quote. It appeared that the content of the murals themselves wasn't a problem, only the fact that the artist was African American. By the end of the 1930s, Aaron no longer pursued a career as a full-time artist. Instead, he began working for the Fisk University as an art professor, where he continued to cultivate his own art while simultaneously instructing the next generation of artists. One consequence of his lessened output was that he was less well known as an artist by the 1970s. Nonetheless, his overall contribution and legacy was acknowledged both now and during his lifetime. In July of 1972, the Fisk University named a section of its new John Hope and Ariella E. Franklin Library the Aaron Douglas Wing. Of the honor, he stated, quote, "I am the most surprised person in the world. Apparently, they think my art over the years, as it has dealt with the African and American black man, had some significance." End quote. On February 2, 1979, Aaron Douglas died of a pulmonary embolism. The New York Times obituary stated that he, quote, "came out of the Middle West, Topeka, Kansas, to assume leadership among black artists in the 20s and 30s at a time when critical conceptual decisions were being made by black artists, writers, and philosophers." End quote. The Nashville Banner said Aaron, quote, "contributed enormously to literature and art in the United States, not just to black literature and art." End quote. At a memorial service held on February 16th, Dr. Walter J. Leonard, president of Fisk University, declared, quote, "Aaron Douglas was one of the most accomplished of the interpreters of our institutions and cultural values. He captured the strength and quickness of the young, he translated the memories of the old, and he projected the determination of the inspired and the courageous." End quote. And there you have it, Aaron Douglas's Aspiration. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give her the old thumbs up, and if you have yet to do so, please subscribe. I am also over on Instagram. You can follow me at Rachel Paints Poorly. Until next time, bye. Is that correct? Yes, I am correct.